Welcome back. It is time for a special edition of Silver and Black today here on this hump day on Wednesday, August 30th. That's right. We're getting close to the end of August. Of course, yesterday was cut down day in the NFL. So we said, you know what? Mo calls me and he says, Scott, we got to do a show on Wednesday, not Thursday. People want to know what's going on. They want to hear from us. And I said, well, yeah, probably. So let's do it. So that's why we're here. And you're talking to Moe Moton. He's a senior NFL writer over at Bleacher Report. He sometimes does live Bleacher Report chats on the Raiders. But yesterday, Mo, the Raiders decided to wait like 4 hours and 15 minutes after the deadline, the last one in the NFL, to send out the roster. I don't know why. So Mo had all these disappointed fans wearing his T-shirt, sitting on the chat function, and they couldn't talk to you. Well, they could talk to you, but you couldn't go on live because the Raiders never released their roster.
I'll say this: the Raiders owe me some money. I'm not gonna say the amount. I almost said the amount. The Raiders owe me some money. I had to cancel my Bleacher Report live stream on Tuesday because 6:30 Eastern time was the cutoff. 3:30 Pacific was the cutoff, and the Raiders hadn't announced their roster until I believe it was around 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. So not only did they miss the Eastern time, Western time deadline, they missed it. Even if it were 4 p.m. Western time, they missed it. So yeah, they owe me some money. Mark Davis, Will Kiss, you guys send me a check whenever I, send you my address. You owe me some money.
Yes, it was weird. We thought that maybe there might be a deal going down, even though there's a deadline. They have the reporting and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, yeah, it sunk your life.
Quick thing, and I know people are going to say this because I've been covering the Raiders since 2014. They usually wait till later in the day to release their roster moves, but this time it was this is by far the longest wait I can remember. I mean, this was like I said, 3.5 hours after the deadline. Come on, Raiders, get it together.
Yes. Yes. We can complain because I know you had your live, which was just on, and then they finally had to cancel it. Over at Sports Not, I was waiting because I got assigned to do the Raiders story. Just, the quick, hey, were there any surprises? Of course, there was a trade earlier in the day, which we'll get into. But, you're waiting. Okay, then I got to cook my kids dinner. I'm still waiting. And and then I had to run to the grocery store. I texted you and our good friend Evan. I said, I know immediately when I pull out of the driveway, the roster's going to drop when I have to run to the grocery store, right? And luckily it didn't. It was when I got home. But anyway, enough of us complaining about us doing our jobs. Mo, we look at the roster cuts. And not a lot of surprises. A few, I would call them minor surprises. Maybe a couple that you maybe teeter on being major. But I want to focus in on first, really, is the cornerback position. So we knew it was a competitive room. We've talked about that for weeks here. We've talked about the fact that our one of our guys that we root for here, I know we're objective, but one of the guys who's been on the show 3 times, actually been on Silver and Black today 3 times, and we've gotten to know him pretty well, is Amik Robertson. We didn't think he was going to make the cut, and instead they cut Tyler Hall, they cut Sam Webb, as well as who am I missing? Duke Shelley. So they cut those 3 veterans, and that surprised me. Did it surprise you as much as it did me, especially Tyler Hall?
The biggest surprise for me was Tyler Hall because hours before the roster dropped, I said, I don't know why a lot of beat reporters and people left Tyler Hall off their roster. Because Tyler Hall has more versatility than Amik. Tyler Hall can play both safety positions. Yeah. And to me, he's their second best slot guy behind Nate Hobbs. But of course, the Raiders feel differently. Now, he may find his way back to the practice squad, but I like Amik. I just didn't think he was going to make it simply because Tyler Hall is more versatile than he is. Now, people will say, well, Amik can play outside. The problem is that Amik isn't that great when he moves outside. He has that height disadvantage. So I think I prefer Amik in the slot, but it seems to me they chose Amik in the slot over Tyler Hall on the side. Duke Shelley wasn't that big of a surprise for me. No. Because remember, I got on with you and Murph and I said, I went on you and Murph and I said the cornerback room didn't really do themselves any favors in that last Cowboys game. None of those guys looked played exceptionally well. So while I had Duke Shelley on my final 50-man roster, I'm not surprised to see him go. I took
Yes.
Sam Webb off because I said Sam Webb is not making it. He just didn't
Yeah.
do enough.
Yeah. But yeah, that was it. Earlier in the day, they made a trade. Neil Farrell Jr. traded to the who? What? Kansas City Chiefs? Yes. A rare interdivisional trade between the Raiders and the Chiefs. The Raiders get a 6th-round pick. Of course, Neil Farrell Jr. was taken in the 4th round. So you could look at that as a loss or as a bad pick. Mo, I look at it as, listen, Nesta Jade Silvera secured his spot on that team. He earned it. He was a rookie. He was, what, 6th round? 6th round? 6th round rookie. Seventh, sorry. Yes, 7th round rookie out of Arizona State. He came in there and he beat out a guy that was a 4th rounder. It's just the way it goes sometimes. It's not a bad thing that you then trade that guy for a 6th rounder. You found a 7th rounder. To me, it equals out in the wash. And the point was Neil Farrell Jr. didn't play bad. That's why the Chiefs were willing to trade for him. The Chiefs, of course, are without Chris Jones, who appears headed to a lengthy holdout against the Chiefs. It does not appear he'll be there for week 1 or any time after that. So the Chiefs needed help, and the Raiders obliged. And you made a really good point as people were complaining about trading with their arch rivals. Tell people your point about Josh McDaniels, Dave Ziegler, the plan, and why you shouldn't get upset that they made a trade with the Chiefs.
So a lot of people are like, oh, you made a deal with the rival team. Why would you do that? And blah, blah, blah. And I said, look, while it's rare, it does happen. In the middle of last season, the Detroit Lions traded TJ Hawkinson, who's a Pro Bowl tight end, to the Vikings. They sent a Pro Bowler. Now, TJ Hawkinson was a Pro Bowler before he got to the Vikings, was a Pro Bowler in 2020. They sent a Pro Bowl player to a division rival. And people are up in arms about sending a rotational defensive tackle to the Chiefs. Now, unless Neil Farrell turns into Ndamukong Suh, this is not going to come back to bite the Raiders or Dave Ziegler. My overall point was Dave Ziegler is going to make a deal with whatever team makes sense for the Raiders. Right. If the deal makes sense, whether it's the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Broncos, or any other team, he's going to make the deal, and he felt that deal made sense. Now, a lot of people ask, how does it make sense? Well, you kind of talked about it. Nesta J. Silvera happened. So Adam Butler made the roster. That happened. Yeah. Yes. Now, I know that it seems like they gave up, or looks like, well, they did give up technically on a 4th-round pick. But what are 4th-round picks expected to be in the NFL? There's expected to be rotational players, depth players with upside to be a starter eventually. And I'm just not up in arms about them, I guess, trading or flipping a 4th-rounder into a 6th-round pick, because that's what a lot of people are focusing on. Oh, no, he was a 4th-round pick and they only got a 6th-round pick for him. But he plays a position that's low on the premium chart. You think running backs and linebackers are devalued? Defensive tackles, unless they're rushing the passer, don't have a lot of value in the open market. So to me, for the Raiders to get something for Neil Farrell Jr. is a positive if they were in the end going to cut him anyway. I'd rather give him to the rival Chiefs and get some draft capital than cut him and get nothing if that was the alternative.
And that's it. I mean, they obviously knew they were going to part ways with Neil Farrell Jr., and to be able to get something for him was great. Yeah, like you said, a 4th-rounder, getting a 6th-rounder, but it happens. When you start picking in those middle rounds, it can be a crapshoot. It's going to be a crapshoot at the 1st round. I mean, look what happened with the 49ers and Trey Lance, right? I rest my case. So you just never know.
Scott, if Nesta J. Silvera turns into a pretty good player, high upside player, people are going to be like, but that 4th-round pick from 2022, Neil Farrell Jr. got away from us. No, people are going to forget that. Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's not they gave Max Crosby, a former 4th-round pick, to the Chiefs, a high-end player who's one of their, arguably their best player, not arguably, is their best player in defense. Mm-hmm. It was a rotational player who you were hoping to take another step in his 2nd year. But with a crowded D-line, you got Byron Young there now. Jerry Tillery's back. Like I said, Adam Butler made the roster. With those guys, Bilal Nichols is still there. How many snaps was Neil Farrell Jr. really going to get? And are you really going to miss him that much in the regular season? I would say no. So as I said, if you're going to cut him anyway, might as well get something for him, whether it's the Chiefs or another team that's not a rival.
Another surprise cut in my book was Philip Dorsett, the second, of course, the wide receiver. originally out of Miami, a veteran, although he was playing a lot in that last game, late in that game, and so you kind of got the sense that was happening. Obviously, he can return kicks. The Raiders seem to be very happy with what they have. Christian Wilkerson has come over from, guess where? The Patriots.
New England. Mm-hmm.
Right, where he was last year. He developed an amazing rapport with Aiden O'Connell. He seems to be a hardworking guy. He's very physical wide receiver too, Mo. That's the thing I was impressed with, him going up on contested balls during the preseason, and we heard that report out of camp as well. This kid, you talk about a kid who really worked himself onto the roster, I think, in a pretty crowded wide receiver room with some veterans that you're obviously saying goodbye. You know, Cam Sims, obviously, and then you had Keenan Cole as well. Man, I mean, pretty good little story there with Christian Wilkerson.
Yeah, I'll give a quick shout out to Alex Manfreda. He's I think he's the deputy editor of Raider Ramble.
Yeah.
He said Christian Wilkerson has a strong rapport with Aiden O'Connell. It could mean something. It might not mean anything. And he was onto something because, as you just said, I believe he had 10 catches for 122 yards in that last game. So he was basically competing with Philip Dorsett for that last wide receiver spot, and he had the better performance, so it makes sense that he would make the roster. I was of the belief that Philip Dorsett, being the veteran there with more years in the league, and then being a more speedy wide receiver to complement Trey Tucker, who is a little inconsistent with his hands, I thought Philip Dorsett would have the inside track to the roster spot, but Christian Wilkerson played well, and he made it work for himself, made a strong case for himself, and that's why he's on the 53-man roster right now.
Yeah, and he was one of those guys who performed so well during the preseason that, you know, other scouts, other teams were well aware of him, and so you weren't going to be able to probably stick him on the practice squad, right? He would have been able to be, because on the practice squad, basically all those guys are free agents, and technically, even though the Raiders retain the first right of refusal for them. So I think that was what they looked at, and they went with the younger guy. I mean, you get the theme here with going with younger players. I mean, we're seeing it not everywhere, but most spots on the Raiders. They're trying to build this roster, and so they're giving these guys opportunities as well. So it was good. Were you surprised at all by Sincere McCormick being cut?
Not at all, because I felt like Amir Abdullah was going to make it because he's their primary pass catcher out of the backfield. Brandon Bolden is a core special teamer. So there's just no room for another running back, especially with Josh Jacobs being back, and you know he's going to be your workhorse again. There was just no room for Sincere McCormick. And I know he scored 2 touchdowns in that preseason game, the first preseason game, I think it was.
Yep.
But after that, you know,
not much.
What had he produced? Not much. So he just didn't make a strong case for himself after those 2 touchdowns. The one thing I will say that kind of surprised me, Jordan Meredith made the roster.
Yeah.
I didn't see, maybe I missed it. Shout me out if you did have it, but I didn't see Jordan Meredith on anyone's final depth chart projections. I had McClendon Curtis, who I felt like played well, but Jordan Meredith played his way in. Congrats to him for making it initially.
Yeah, McClendon Curtis, one of the casualties of cut day, as well as Cole Fotheringham, tight end, who looked pretty good. Hopefully he catches on somewhere. And then Drake Thomas, of course, the guy we talked about last game, who did really well, but just not enough. And I think from a size perspective there. By the way, news out of Houston, Corey Littleton was cut today too as well. So, man, I feel bad for that guy. He was such a dominated player with the Rams, went to the Raiders, never found it, and went to Houston and never found it, man. You hate to see somebody decline so quickly.
I don't feel that bad for Corey Littleton because guess what? The Raiders are still paying him about $10 million in dead cap money. He's still on the Raiders payroll for about $10 million, so I can't feel too bad for him.
Yeah,
he's still getting paid pretty well.
You're going to live a good life, that's for sure. All right, we are at the end of our first segment here on the special edition on a Wednesday of Silver and Black Today, an Odyssey original podcast. By the way, I forgot to tell you at the beginning of the show, if you don't already subscribe to the show, please do so wherever you get your audio. Just look for Silver and Black Today. Also, if you dare, follow Mo on Twitter, MoeMoton. You can follow me at LV Gully. The show is SNB Today, and we will be back right after these words, so stay where you are. Welcome back here, Silver and Black Today on a Wednesday. It's Hump Day. We are going through the Raiders' 53-man roster. Yesterday was cut day in the NFL. lots of dreams put on hold or dashed, others come true. And I'm sure that we'll hear some of those stories coming out of the Raider locker room. By the way, Mo, I got to tell you this story real quick. The other night, what I do now that I'm back into the journalism thing full time and writing and editing, I love to go outside when the weather's good. Of course, now that I live closer to the East Coast like you, we're running out of time. We got maybe, I don't know, 8 weeks left before it starts to get cold and you can't sit outside. I like to sit outside, smoke a cigar, have a bottle, have a cup, a glass of bourbon, and do my work, right? It's Silver and Black Today work. It's Sports Not work, whatever I might be working on. So I have a deck, right? And underneath my deck, we have this little round part of the deck is like a little storage area, right? A little door opens. I put my lawnmower in there, my gas cans in there. I got some fire ring stuff, all that stuff. So I'm up, I'm having a cigar, but I don't like the cigar. I light the tiki torches. You ever seen the little tiki torches that are little, they're liquid fuel basically. So I light those out there, keep the bugs away, although we haven't had much this year. But anyway, so I'm lighting it, and the wicks on those things, they're white wicks, and they kind of ball up when they burn. So I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, it's spitting off these little embers, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. It just kind of fizzles out. So I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, I smell something, like something's burning. And then I look below my feet, in the slats in between the deck, and there's like fire underneath my deck. So these little embers from these wicks from the tiki torches get into the under area, because I have a tarp under there that covers it so that when it rains or snows, it doesn't go on top of the lawnmower or seep through down and make it a wet mess. So, dude, I run into the house, I grab, and this is a good educational piece for all of you out there, no matter where you live, apartment, house, condo, whatever. Keep a fire extinguisher at your house. Trust me. So I run in the kitchen. My wife's like, what the heck is going on? Because I'm running like a madman. And I go because, again, down there is a gas can and my lawnmower. If the fire hits the gas can, dude, like I'm looking like Elon Musk's satellites, right? I'm flying up in the air. And probably massively disfigured. So I get in there and I spray the fire out and I burn it out. But anyway, dude, I was relaxed. I was out there. I was doing some writing. I was in, how when you get in that groove when you're writing, Mo? And you just feel it and like nothing can stop you. And all of a sudden, everything under my feet is burning. It was crazy, man. So that is just my PSA, public service announcement. Keep fire extinguishers in your house. You can go get one at Home Depot, Lowe's, wherever you get them. But keep a couple at your house because you never know when stuff happens. So anyway, I'm happy to be here is what I'm saying, Mo.
So basically, what Scott just told you is he almost blew himself up and his whole entire
and the family,
home. And the family,
that's dogs, everybody. Yes. So be careful. And it was funny because I always worry having a cigar. I always worry about doing that where you drop something and it burns something, and it wasn't even related to that. It was the damn tiki torches. I blame it on the mosquitoes. See, that's the problem.
See, those mosquitoes are evil. I told you about those mosquitoes several episodes ago. There's no use for mosquitoes. They need to just be extinct. That's it.
I agree. There you go. But anyway, so I wanted to tell you that quick story and surprise you because you weren't ready for it. All right, we are back talking Raiders football now. And nobody at the Raiders facility is blowing themselves up with tiki torches. So Mo, you look at this too. As expected, Alex Bars was let go. We saw Isaac Rochelle on the defensive end.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you, but there were some people on my Bleacher Report Live and maybe in the chat that pushed back and said Alex Bars is making a roster, and I was steadfast, and I was like, he's not making it. But go ahead.
I think everybody was and listen, thank you for his service. If I'm a fan, I'm saying thank you. You stepped in at a tough time and you played when you needed to, and he is, of course, from the Notre Dame as well. So you have to appreciate that. Another Irish player, Isaac Rochelle, was cut as well. But outside of that, again, not surprised by this. But now you look at this roster and we can start to look at it and say, okay, again, what's still missing? I think that linebacker spot. we were holding out hope when the last two teams, you texted me, the last two teams to release their roster are the Ravens and the Raiders. Maybe, just maybe, Mo's magical dream of Patrick Queen coming to Las Vegas would happen. Maybe that's what was holding it all up, but not yet, at least. So we'll have to wait on that one. But I do think people we put a lot of stock and we talk about this 53-man cutdown day. But in reality, Mo, more moves, more action on this roster. A guy might have made the roster today, came in the building, was like, whew, like we used to do in high school. If you go on the list, and are you on the list? Did you make the team? But then it could be 24 hours and they're gone. It could be 48 hours. It could be 72. You never know. There is a lot of roster turnover here, as even today, later today on Wednesday, they will open it up and you can start signing players to your practice squad as well. So when you look at that, kind of tell us, Mo, from your point of view and from the listeners out there, what to expect and where you might see some changes of guys who seemingly made the roster but might not be there very long.
So I think still going to pull off a trade. May not be for Patrick Queen. I hope it's a linebacker because I'm still not confident in the linebacker core there. But as you said, today, Wednesday at noon, the Raiders will be able to start adding players to the practice squad. They can add 16 players to the practice squad. 10 of those players have to have fewer than 2 crude seasons, and the other 6 can be veterans of however many years. So guys like Philip Dorsett can find their way back onto the practice squad. But I actually expect changes. If I were these guys that I'm going to name, I wouldn't get too comfortable. If I'm Isaiah Polamalu, even though I like him, I had him on my last depth chart. I wouldn't get comfortable as the 5th safety because, as I said, Roger Teamer is more of a core special teamer, so I think he's probably safer than Isaiah Polamalu. Jordan Meredith, though he made it over Alex Bars, wouldn't get too comfortable because the Raiders have some flexibility with some of their offensive linemen who can move inside the guard. So wouldn't get comfortable if I were him. Christian Wilkerson, who we talked about earlier in the show, wouldn't get too comfortable. The Raiders only had 5 wide receivers last year. I know DeAndre Carter is more of a special teams guy, returning kicks and punts. But you're the 6th wide receiver. You're not getting too comfortable. So those 3 guys, I would just kind of look over my shoulder a little bit. The Raiders could pick up a guy who's now a free agent. I still Illinois, who's been available, is an option for the Raiders at linebacker if they don't trade for one. So between free agents, claiming guys off waivers, and guys that they may be in between on practice squad, 53-man roster, they can make some changes. So as a lot of people have said, the initial roster is not going to be the final product come week 1.
Yes, and you look at some notable players released yesterday, Mo, and at the linebacker position, not a lot from a free agent standpoint. I mean, Jabril Cox, who of course was the belle of the ball back in 2021 as a 4th rounder, and then tore his ACL and never kind of got back to where people really liked him. He was cut, as well as Christian Kirksey was cut. Remember him as well. Christian Harris, Denzel Perryman, Corey Littleton, I mentioned earlier, on that roster, and so on. So you look at this cornerback position, there's a couple guys there. By the way, Nicholas Morrow was cut again, so Raider fans who love him will then be clamoring for him, as we know. But Kirksey's rumored to maybe be going to Philly. So we'll see how it all turns out. And if you look at the waiver wire order, the Raiders are 7th in the order, by the way, when it comes to the Raider wire. The Bears are first, so the Bears get the first crack at anything that comes down the wire. When you look at that market, though, Mo, is there anybody you got your eye on that was either cut on Tuesday or maybe could be a cut coming up here again as teams go for other opportunities with players who reach the waiver wire?
Now you mentioned the Philadelphia Eagles being connected to Christian Kirksey. If Philadelphia doesn't close the deal with him, if I'm the Raiders, I'm jumping on that. He played really well last year with the Texans. I have a guy out there covers the Texans, said he was basically a captain on that defense. Played every game because he had some injury issues when he was with the Cleveland Browns. Played every game. I believe he had about 2 interceptions, had 124 tackles, had 7 tackles for loss. he was arguably their best linebacker there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
he should be getting a lot of calls from teams interested in him. Jalen Smith is another guy I think could circle back with the Raiders. Remember, the Raiders hosted him for a visit before he signed with the Saints. I know a lot of people want to say Jalen Smith is washed, but apparently the Raiders thought were interested enough to bring him in for a visit. Now that he's available again, he may circle back to Las Vegas. He may take the offer, whatever the Raiders were giving him on the table. So we'll see what happens with that. Another guy that's not a position of big need, but I really liked coming out of Washington, running back Myles Gaskin. Running back Myles
Ah.
Gaskin was let go of. The Dolphins let him go, and they drafted a running back, Devon Achane, this year. So I knew somebody on the back end, either Alvin Samed or Myles Gaskin, would let go. I like Myles Gaskin. He had a pretty productive year. I believe he had over 1,000 yards from scrimmage one year with the Dolphins. Just that they have a crowded room now with Raheem Mostert there, with Jeff Wilson Jr. there. As I said, Achane is there too. So I think he'll catch on somewhere, and he can be a committee guy. If you're low on Zamir White and think the Raiders need a bit of a boost at running back, or maybe you don't like Amir Abdullah being there, Myles Gaskin can catch and run out of the backfield. So I think he could be a replacement for Amir Abdullah, who I believe is 30 years old. Myles Gaskin is younger.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's going to be opportunities. It'll be interesting to see what the Raiders do, and there's always some surprises too, because a player sometimes will come on the market. Remember, a lot of these GMs and the scouts, Mo, they scout these guys coming out of college, and they're high on their list in college. They don't always get to draft them. They might go earlier than they're able to draft them. So they're still in love with those guys, by the way. Some of these guys who end up getting cut, they know, hey, I can just bring them in here and we can get all that potential out of them that they couldn't get out of them in Seattle or Detroit or wherever it may be. So that's sort of how it works in the NFL. So I think you're going to be surprised. You had something to say, though?
I'm wondering if the Raiders would be interested in bringing in. Now, these aren't the greatest of names. These aren't guys who are going to wow you. But Tay Crowder, I believe, played under Patrick Graham in New York, and O'Shane Ximenez, who's an edge rusher. Tay Crowder's a linebacker. Ximenez is an edge rusher. Ximenez is interesting to me because he came out of Old Dominion, showed some flashes in his first year and last year. In those middle 2 years, didn't have any sacks. I believe he's been banged up. But remember, Chandler Jones, we don't know what his stats is going to be. How healthy is he going to be for week one? So if the Raiders are looking for some depth on the edge, I wonder if they call Shane Ximenez to come in and just kind of fill in until Chandler Jones is 100%.
Yeah. Bailey Zappi?
That surprised me.
It was a big surprise.
That was a surprise.
At Sportsnaut, we did a story, and I did the video with the top 3 kind of surprises, and he was one of them just because of where he was drafted, and you kind of had the feeling that maybe he was going to be able to step in there if Jones can't get it together. But that was it. And, of course, we know about some of the other cuts, some of the former Raiders. Alex Leatherwood, Chicago, gone. Brian Edwards in New Orleans, gone. Jonathan Abram in New Orleans, gone. All the Gruden guys, not trying to pile on, just stating fact.
Tanner Muse.
It's Tanner Muse, yes, the war daddy himself, out. It's incredible. I mean, you don't revel in it because it's sad that all of that draft capital, man. Josh Jacobs is it, right? I mean, and Miller, that's it.
Well, from 2019?
Yeah.
2019.
20. And 20. Yeah, 20. Josh Jacobs was 20. 19 was Miller.
No. Josh Jacobs was
19.
Josh Jacobs was 19. 20.
Right.
20. That 20 class
was
the disaster class. Amik Robinson's the only one left.
He's the only one left. Yeah, imagine
He's
that.
the only one left.
It's so bad that I'm forgetting the years because you don't want to remember that.
The 19 year was Max Crosby saves it because that was Max Crosby's class. So he saves that. When you look at the 2019 class, you're like, all right, they whiffed clearly on Cleveland Farrell, but at least they got Max Crosby and Josh Jacobs out of who are cornerstone players. Hunter Renfrow, we'll see how he bounces back or if he bounces back. But when you go after that 2020 class, the 2021 class, oh man, Alex Leatherwood.
And let's be fair to the Gruden and Mayock double-headed monster. The last year's Raiders class still up in the air a little bit, right? We saw Neil Farrell go. There are some good players there,
Matthew
of course. Butler too. So those, yeah, the jury's still a little bit out on Dave Ziegler. I think he did better in the draft this year, early returns that is. So we'll have to see. But I'm not giving the front office and the Raiders a pass like they're. I mean, I don't think you could do as bad as Gruden and Mayock did, but certainly if you're going to build a championship team, you got to start nailing drafts. So if the Raiders draft picks this year don't contribute like we think they can and we've seen so far, then the team could be in trouble again. But I don't want to go down that slope because I know some of the people are already there.
The good thing about the 2022 class is that at least their first pick is a starter. Dylan Parham is going to be their left guard.
Yeah.
Thayer Munford Jr. had a legitimate chance to wrestle away the right tackle job from Jermaine Illuminar. We'll see who starts there week 1, but I assume it's going to be Jermaine Illuminar. Zamir White, every time I say something about Zamir White, there's someone rushing to defend him. And I'm not saying he's an awful player. I'm just saying he's
Right.
You know. I'm more of a Britton Brown guy, but he's hurt right now. So
yeah. Well, again, it's the NFL and running backs. You just kind of you reload every 2 to 3 years, right? So I was asked on the show today if now that Josh Jacobs and the Raiders all made happy and everybody's kumbaya and shooting videos, are the Raiders going to sign him to a long-term deal? And I said I don't think so. I think it's now if he goes out and balls out, great. But are the Raiders going to be in the position to where they want to pay him again next year? I don't know. Maybe. But that position, Mo, it's that, like you talked about defensive tackle on the inside. Look, it's just I would just cheer for your guy this year, and hopefully he has a great year for him and for the team.
Here are my early thoughts on that Josh Jacobs situation if you want to look ahead to 2024, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say the Raiders, and I just hypothetically speaking, let's say they go 11-6, they're a playoff team. People are going to laugh at that, right? But let's say anything could happen. Who knows? Let's say they go 11-6, they're in the playoffs, and they win a playoff game. And they look at their roster and say, we can run this back and we could take it a little further with a few more pieces. I think they would be less reluctant to let Josh Jacobs go if he was a big part of why they were winning and why they were a playoff team again. Now, if they finish 6-11 again, or they win 4 games, I think it's Josh Jacobs more likely will hit the free agent market because they'll say, look, Josh Jacobs played well, but we only won 4 games. Yeah. He's playing a low premium position. I know people are going to say, well, you got Max Crosby and you still only won 4 games. The difference is Max Crosby plays a very high premium position.
Right.
Running back, as we've seen this past offseason, teams are not paying running backs. No. So if you're a team that's on the bottom of the standings, you're not going to be encouraged to pay a running back because you're like, well, we can use that money to spend elsewhere and get better at higher premium positions.
I did think it was interesting that all of the hubbub around Jonathan Taylor. Oh, you can seek a trade. Well, clearly, you talk about the running back market. Clearly, whatever Indianapolis was asking, because they let Taylor go out with his agent and try to find a trade, and guess what? Nobody wanted it. So that tells you Jonathan Taylor, now he was injured last year, didn't have a great year, but he's a great back. Love the guy. I think he's a very incredible talent, but it just goes again. It's another example to show you where that market at. It's just not there. All right, we're going to step aside for a break. When we come back, we'll do a couple little mail items. We usually do that on Thursday. We're going to just grab a couple of them today. I won't talk about blowing myself up or anything like that, but we will roll on with some more Raiders talk as well. By the way, if you want to be a part of the Mailbag shows, send us mail. It's mail@silverandblacktoday.com, mail@silverandblacktoday.com. We are coming right back after these words. Don't go anywhere, Raider Nation. It's time for the home stretch here on Silver and Black Today, this special edition on Wednesday. We've been talking a lot about cut day in the NFL yesterday. Of course, the Raiders' 53-man roster. Not a ton of surprises, a couple little ones. And, of course, the trade with Kansas City is what we discussed at the top of the show. Do us a favor, subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your audio. Just look for Silver and Black Today, and you'll find us there. And us is me. I'm Scott Gulbransen, your host, along with my co-host, Mr. Moe Moton. He's a senior NFL writer at Bleacher Report, also Raiders columnist at sportsnot.com, where we both write. That's right. You can also find me at sportsnot.com. and follow us on Twitter. You can see the names on the screen if you're watching us. If not, you can also see them in the description there. All right, Mo, we're going to get into the mailbag here, abbreviated but quick mailbag, because we didn't give people enough time. Usually they send mail towards the tail end of the week, and then we get to it at the end of the week. But we did get some interesting pieces of mail that I want to get your reaction to, and some new writers. Although I think this next fan listener actually has written in before. His name is Anders. Anders. What do you think? Anders? I think it's Anders.
How's it spelled? A-N-D-E-R?
E-R-S. Anders.
Anders, yeah.
Yeah, Anders. All right, Anders. Sorry, we just got your name correct. Obviously, he says, a little worried about our linebacker room. Ha. What can a team do to compensate? This is a great question for Mo, who's much more of an X's and O's guy than I am. What can a team do to compensate for a weak linebacker core? Get creative and use 3 safeties and have one move up? Guess that means no slot cornerback. Yikes. That's from Anders. Anders, thanks for that. Mo, we talked about this last year. Remember we talked about compensating for a weak offensive line and what you do there? Mm-hmm. What about a weak linebacking core in this pass-happy NFL where linebacking and the position has changed significantly over the years, where speed is much more an issue than maybe size and these big hits that we used to see from the likes of Lawrence Taylor? Talk about his question there, and what can the Raiders do if they can't really address the linebacker position this season?
I think Anders answered his own question right there. You usually would compensate with an extra safety, usually a bigger safety. So I say that person is probably Isaiah Pola-Mao, who's 6'4". I believe he bulked up this offseason, so he may be about 220. The website, the Raiders website, has him listed at 210, but I think he's bigger than that. But you would compensate with a bigger safety. And I get the angst about, you're going to have to change some things around, maybe to have a slot corner on the field. But I think the NFL as a whole, when you look at the way teams play defense now, you're seeing a lot more safeties in the box or play linebacker or be that hybrid. I think that's just the way the game is trending. If you remember, we had Baldy on during the draft, and he said linebackers aren't hitting the way they used to anymore. And it's because a lot of the linebackers now coming in are hybrid guys, or guys who are versatile, where they can rush the passer, they can cover, they can do multiple things on the back seven. So I think the changing of the league is going to require teams to have an athletic player in the middle of the field, not necessarily a linebacker, but could be a safety. So I think the Raiders are trending in that direction. I think Isaiah Pola-Mao is the perfect player to fill that role, simply because he's not too small. He's not one of these smaller safeties at 6 feet. He's 6'4", maybe about 220 now. So he's the size of a slender linebacker, so to speak, kind of like Malik Cunningham, who used to play with the Texans and was with the Titans last year. So I think I'm not saying the Raiders are going to be fine with that plan, because I still think they need another linebacker, but they are equipped to play this modern style game where they're going to play a team that's going to spread them out. They have the athletic bodies to cover some gaps in their secondary and in the box.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that hybrid position, you're seeing it much more in college now, where you have that safety who sneaks in at linebacker and kind of that size. We saw Isaiah Simmons, obviously, with the trade from Arizona, and what happened there. That was the kind of player, I know a lot of Raider fans were like, why didn't we trade for him? Well, there's all kinds of reasons why, but nonetheless, it's the kind of player that they could have used right now.
Right, and the one thing I didn't realize about Isaiah Simmons, one of the question marks about him in his exit from Arizona was his effort. I did some digging, and there were some questions about he gave up in that preseason game against the Chiefs when he was getting burned. So there could have been questions about, is he mature enough? That's when the maturity questions come in, and so maybe the Raiders had some concerns there. Who knows? But it was more than just performance with Isaiah Simmons. Anytime you give up on a top 10 overall pick, it's usually a little more to the story, and I think that may have played a factor into why the Raiders maybe didn't try to acquire him.
Yeah, I love that kid coming out of college, and hopefully he finds it. You hate to see somebody with so much talent not be able to realize it, so we'll see. Anders, thank you so much for your mail. Again, you can also hit us up on Twitter, in the YouTube comments, wherever you want. Just ask your question. We'll get it into the rotation. The next message comes from a longtime listener to the show. He's a professional comedian. His name is AJ DeMello. AJ has been actually, we had him on the show. Man, that'd probably be 3 or 4 years ago, when Kelly was on with me. And AJ, of course, his I'm going to get to his email, but of course it's got some funnies in it, right? Of course, because he's a comedian. So AJ, and I'm not sure, I'll have to find out where he does his stand up. I think it's still in Los Angeles. But anyway, he says, okay, what is your opinion on this stupid jersey phenomenon? I'm only 33 years old, but I feel 83 when I tell people how sick I am to see Jacobs go from 28 to 8 and to have tight ends and defensive ends wear the single numbers. I know most people don't care, and why does it matter, but it feels wrong. I absolutely hate it. Kid numbers on grown-ups, that's like choosing water wings when the boat's going down instead of a life preserver. I'd rather
I wonder if AJ put ketchup on his hot dog, because maybe he's
no, he's not. He's smart. What do you mean? You wouldn't put ketchup on his hot dog. I'd rather chance drowning than looking the part. I know that's a terrible example, but I don't care. By the way, the witch is dead no more. Carr. We can actually become a team and be confident. It's fun cutting out the cancer, ain't it? Woo. AJ is obviously not a fan of Derek Carr. Can't wait to see quarterbacks that actually see the field all year, that aren't afraid to speak up and lead. And that's without cutting the sleeves off their jersey. AJ DeMello. I love it. And then he says, P.S. He actually sent a second email. By the way, the number thing doesn't matter. That probably wasn't funny. I'm just having a bad day. No joke. Though, please tell McDaniels to draft a running back that actually breaks tackles as our number 2 next time. So there you go. There's a Zamir White comment, right?
Yep.
But yeah. AJ DeMello, thanks for your comment. So what did you think of that? What about the jersey thing? Is it weird seeing Teddy Bridgewater in Detroit wearing the number 50 or whatever the hell it was? I forgot what number it was at quarterback.
It was 50.
It was 50, right? Yeah. So what do you think of this? Like, I'm so used to, and I know you're younger than me, Mo, but you grew up pretty much the same way, which was receivers were in the 80s. Then they opened it up a little, 80s as far as numbers on their jersey. And then they opened it up a little bit and went back to give them, they could have quarterback numbers, single digit, and the teens. Like when I was a kid, Charlie Joyner, these guys, these wide receivers, Cliff Branch was 21. But anyway, those guys had those digit numbers. Now they basically opened up the floodgates, and if you want to be a quarterback and wear number 99, you can.
My take on this is, I'm going to sound like the old guy screaming at the clouds here. But now, if you don't know the roster well, you're not going to know who's who on the field. Because usually you get an idea of who's who because you know if the number's in A's, it's a wide receiver.
Yeah.
The number is a single digit, something, probably a quarterback. I mean, Tyree Wilson is wearing 9.
9. Yeah.
And I'm just like,
as a defensive end.
I follow the team closely, but I'm not going to lie to you. The first preseason game, I find myself looking at the depth chart online like, who is this guy now? Aziz Hearn? Okay, what number is he? Okay, and I'm just like, what I don't like, and because I played a little bit of cornerback in high school, I don't like cornerbacks with numbers in the 40s.
Yeah.
I don't like seeing that. For some reason, a cornerback wearing like 46 or 48 just bothers me. I like my cornerbacks, 24, Charles Woodson, in the 20s. I get the 30s sometimes, but seeing a cornerback with a number in the 40s bothers me. But the wide receiver thing, not so much. Tyree Wilson and 9 is weird, as I said. Thank goodness Teddy Bridgewater went to 17 from 50, because that was just ugly. Even though he's not the starter, just come on, Teddy. Yeah. But I'm definitely going to sound like an old person here. I'm kind of with AJ. I like the structure with the numbers versus what we're getting to it today, where anybody could just almost basically wear any number they want.
Yeah, I don't understand why it was done. Like, I never heard a reasoning behind why they opened it up that way. Now, in college, you understand it, because in college, you have guys that play both ways, right? It's a different type of system sometimes. Not all of them do. It doesn't happen a ton anymore. But you can have duplicate numbers. You can have 2 number 50s in college, right? You can have that depending on the size of the rosters and where you're at as far as the classifications, divisions and whatnot. So I get that, but yeah, it's just weird. And then it sets up these weird situations too, where a rookie comes in, unbeknownst to him, they give him a number, and then people go nuts on him saying you're being disrespectful to the last quarterback who left when he had no choice, right? So again, you start eating up those numbers, and that's what happened. Now, I
Someone
saw
did.
somebody posted. Did you see the number 12 thing?
I was just getting ready to bring that up.
Were you? Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yep. No, I was gonna say I found it funny because someone put an edit up of Aiden O'Connell in number 12. Someone said they hope Aiden O'Connell changes to number 12 when the season starts. How interesting would that be if Aiden O'Connell starts the season at number 12 and actually steps in for Jimmy Garoppolo, has a great season, Tom Brady in the process of being a part owner of the Raiders? How crazy would that be if that would all just come together like that?
Sounds like a movie.
Yes.
And very rarely do movies become reality, but you never know. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he changes his number with numbers freed up now. But who knows? You know, then suddenly they'll sign some linebacker who wants to be number 6. I don't know. Who knows? But AJ's on to a point there. I think it's a really interesting conversation. I'll have to ask why it was done. I have to figure that out. So I owe the listeners that explanation. I will go searching for that.
I will say though, I had no problem with Jacobs wearing 8 because I believe he wore 8 at Bama.
Yeah.
So he's basically just going back to the number he had. I'm okay with that. The one thing I will say is that it's hard for people who buy jerseys because then some next guy could be wearing the jersey that you bought originally for Josh Jacobs 28. Now some next guy could be wearing it, and now it's not Josh Jacobs anymore. The cool thing was I saw Roquan Smith do this. He held a kind of like a not I won't say a party, but just kind of like get together for fans who bought his old number because I think he's changing to number 0 now.
Yeah,
and he was giving out, his new jersey number to the fans who may have bought the old jersey with his old
That's
number.
cool.
I thought that was pretty cool.
That's cool. I know that the store, because they're so huge now, they're pretty much monopoly. That Fanatic store, right, who sells all the NFL, NBA, and NHL gear, Major League Baseball. They have that jersey guarantee, where like if you buy a jersey, I think it's within a year or a season, and your player gets traded. I wonder if they do that with the number change too. I'll have to find that out. But because listen, man, it's a freaking investment to buy a jersey these days. I feel terrible for kids, man, especially working class kids, man. Just want their favorite player's jersey, and it's like $100 for a replica jersey now for a kid's size.
This is why I to this day I have a Jerry Rice jersey, I have a Charles Woodson jersey that's all beat up. But other than that, I bought jerseys and just put my name on it because I'm always going to be me, right? So no one, I'm not changing my number. I'm not playing, so I'm not changing my number anytime soon. So it could always be me with my name on the
back. I love it, man. That's good stuff. By the way, I said Midtown Mo because a reminder to go up to DC4L Custom Tees, buy your Midtown Mo. We're starting to see them out in the wild now. And we got to start sharing pictures. So you have to tweet at us your pictures. We got a couple. So when we come back next week for a full show, I will present those. I'll get some of those up. So make sure you send them. If you got your Midtown Mo shirt, we saw Rossi all the way in Australia. There's one in Australia, Mo. Rossi's going to be walking in Australia wearing a Midtown Mo shirt. Think about that. Think about from where you came from as far as growing up a little kid, going to college, starting a career that wasn't the career you wanted, and then working your ass off to then find the career you wanted. Now there's people walking all over the world in a shirt with your name on it. It's crazy.
I'll say it's absolutely incredible because shout out to James Owens, I believe, who's also in our Silver and Black Today League.
Great
bought
picture.
The shirt, posted a picture, and I retweeted it. Shout out to James for that. I said it to someone else. It's surreal that I might see someone outside walking with my nickname on their chest or on their chest with their shirt, because let me tell you that there are people out there who are just starting to get their orders in. So shout out to all those people. I will be posting and tweeting those photos out there. But I'm humbled. Honestly, I'll honestly say, from the Bleacher Report live support that I get, the people hanging out in the chat, the people in the chat here with us on X, on Twitter, whatever you want to call it, I appreciate the support. It's just from where I came from, I couldn't picture it being this way for me.
Well, you deserve it, man. You're working hard. And of course, not only that, but again, because you always help others, we talk about that offline, and helping folks trying to break into journalism and other ventures. But buying that shirt, you're helping out to the One Nation Foundation. So you buy that shirt. Mo and I don't make any money off these things. The Irish Cannon shirt, we don't make any money off it. $4 from every shirt goes to the One Nation Foundation for Jeff, Michelle, and Murph, who then give most of it to the Blitnikoff Foundation, of course, and to Raider Dad. So it goes to Raider charities, too. It's not like it's going to, even though they're a great charity, the Red Cross. No, this is going to charities that actually are from within Raider Nation, so you're helping out one another, which is phenomenal as well. So we certainly appreciate it, but it's fun. And I
encourage people, check out One Nation Foundation. Check out these charities, just so you know that they're real. They're out there. It's just not going into the ether. The real charities, real money going to real causes.
Yeah, and any of the super chats we get in YouTube for you guys watching us right now there, and we got a couple last show that goes right to the One Nation Foundation, as well as other donations that come in. And we have a big one we're working on. Murph and I are working on that we'll hopefully be able to tell you guys about pretty soon. Pretty close to my heart, so it's going to be fun. But do that. Get your Midtown Mo shirt and strut. You got to strut, though. Like, send us some videos strutting. Especially if I want to see somebody in Midtown wearing a Midtown Mo shirt. Like,
that
43rd and 43rd and 6th or something, somewhere there near Times Square, something like that.
The day that happens, I'm going to take a picture. I'll have to stop that person. I don't know if the person will even recognize me, right? Because sometimes people say I look different in person.
Oh, really?
Yeah, some people say I look a little different in person. They're not expecting me to look the way I do in person. I don't know what that means.
Interesting.
But person may not recognize me. I would have to stop that person and immediately take a photo. So if you're out there with a Midtown Mo t-shirt, we're going to have to take a selfie, a flick together and post it on social media for the people.
It will be. It'll be fun. Kelly's working on something crazy with it. It's just got to be.
Kelly's always working on something crazy. Something. I don't. He's always got something up his sleeve, and
we're overdue to have him on the show. We will have him on next week. We have, by the way, for those that are familiar, we do have, and it's sorry we got so busy with things happening. I was going to try to do a couple other leagues to welcome more of you in, but we do have a Silver and Black Today Fantasy Football League with some listeners, and those listeners will introduce them again next week. But we have our draft on Sunday as well, so we're going to get used to that. And again, Mo has to lose to me because he's used to that. He's used to that. We got to come up with another bet, man. I don't know.
But did we split? Did we split last year? Or was I 1-2? I know I lost the first one and I ate the ice cream, so I'll never forget that. But I think we split.
Did we split? I don't know.
Because remember, I came on strong at the end. We'll have to look at the standings.
You did come on strong at the end. Yeah.
I know I owe Wendy. She was 2-0 against me last year.
Yeah.
Say what you want about Wendy's record. She beat me twice last year.
She did. And I'm thinking about, because I'm not gonna change any of the rules, but I am thinking about going to a 6-team playoff. What do you think?
We had 4 last year.
We had 4. It's tough. Now we got 12 teams.
You do understand if you open it up to 6, then I'm definitely going to win the title because if it was 6 last year, I would have made it. I think I would.
Yes, you would have made it. I know. Well, hey, I'm trying to help you out here, man, because I know you'll be in that 6th spot again. There's listeners out there going, "Why are they talking about fantasy football? I don't want to talk about fantasy football."
The funny thing is, whenever I'm on social media or on my Bleach Report Live, I usually get at least 1 or 2 fantasy football questions. I am your fantasy football guy. If you want to know, I do fantasy football. I'll have some fantasy football pieces out during the season at Bleach Report. Make sure you check that out. They'll drop every Friday in the morning.
Every Friday morning,
7 a.m.
As you sit there and think about, oh gosh, only one more day and I get some time off. Then you can do that. For those of you who work on the weekends like Mo and I do now, you know that your weekend might be Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday and Saturday. Not 2 days in a row, as we both look at that. But anyway, so, but fantasy football, it's so big. So when people say, why are you talking about it? It's because most people play it. And listen, I'm a busy father of 5, right? I got jobs. I got all this stuff that we do. Mo's busy. He's all over the place too. But you still find time to do it because working in it, you're covering it anyway, but also you get a little joy out of it and it helps you connect with the rest of the league and with people and with friends, right? So we're going to talk about it on here. So we'll have Kelly on next week. He'll probably have his camera on vertically, all that kind of stuff. He's from Southern Indiana. He's only a step above. What do you call him? I forgot what they call him in Southern Indiana. But anyway, he's gonna kill me for that. But anyway,
we apologize to the people in Indiana for that one.
No, I won't. They're right across the border. It's only like 8 miles from me, man.
I know some people in Indiana, and they were like, "What did your co-host say about?"
Yeah,
people
did they?
From Indiana? It could be a little testy.
When are they going to change the name of their state?
Why would they do that?
It's French for Indian.
There's your history lesson. So we're giving you a little of everything. Fantasy football, history lessons.
If Cleveland had to change their baseball team's name, the least the state could do is change its name. Of course, I'm kidding. It's all good. But anyway, we'll start talking about some fantasy football. We'll have fun with that as well. And we'll see how we're able to do. I finished second last year. And as usual, I get bounced in the playoff. I finished first 3 years in a row in my other league. And every year I lose in the first round of the playoffs because it's head to head. It's terrible.
If you were an NFL team, what would that team be? Makes the playoffs, gets bounced. Like the Titans before they started going downhill. Do you remember the Titans? They were the 1 seed 1 year, I think, and they got bounced by the Bengals in the first round.
It's like the 90s Bills. Oh no, they got the Super Bowls though. They got the Super Bowls. So that might not be the best thing. It could be kind of the 49ers, I guess, right? Recently go far.
They go to the NFC Championship game though, at least.
Yeah. Well, I can't think of it.
The Bills now.
Yeah.
They seem to disappoint once they get to the playoffs, right?
Yes.
Or the Ravens before Lamar Jackson got over the hump and won that first playoff game.
That's a good one.
There you go.
Oh, man. Anyway, all right. Well, we are going to wrap up this Wednesday special edition, of course, reviewing and recapping what happened yesterday with the cut down for the Raiders and, of course, their trade with the Kansas City Chiefs. The rest of the week on this show, what we're going to do is tomorrow we will drop a silver and black blitz, most likely from me or maybe Mo on Friday. We'll see, depending on how schedules work out. So we will have some more content this week, our shorter shows. We haven't had one of those this week, but we will have one coming up as well. Of course, there's no game this Sunday, so we will not have a post-game show. But then we will be back raging next week with a blitz probably on Monday, and then Tuesday a full show, Thursday a full show. Next Thursday, we're going to have Jason Lockenfora from CBS Sports will be our guest, and we're also looking at a nice guest on Tuesday. So we'll keep that under wraps until we confirm. But we got lots to talk about. We'll have lots of roster movements. And then next week, Mo, we actually get to start talking about a real game.
Denver Broncos up first.
Yes.
And a lot of Raider fans are confident in that game. Last I looked at the line, as I told Scott, the Broncos are favored by 4. If you can get it at +4 Raiders, this is a little betting advice. Take the +4 on the Raiders.
Yes, absolutely. I think it started at 2.5, right? And it moved all the way to 4 so far.
It moved up, which is weird because I would think that Jacobs being back in the fold should have moved it the other way.
So if you haven't bet it now while you can before it goes up or goes down. So anyway, listen, Mo, what do you got the rest of the week for people? I know you have a crazy Wednesday, the rest of today and into the weekend, and let everybody know what's coming up for you.
So TBD to be announced. I'm going to have a column on Thursday and a column on Friday. I'm sure the Raiders will be involved in one of those columns. It'll be about the roster cuts. I'm sure I'll have to talk about surprise cuts or guys that should be on rosters. I think the Raiders should be interested in guys that we didn't mention today, because as I dig into the names that are going to be available, because as Scott said, they're going to be more roster moves. So there'll be more guys that are going to hit waivers. They're going to hit the free agent market that I think the Raiders should pounce on with the way their linebacker core is currently constructed. So I'll have that on Bleach Report on Sportsnot. I'll actually start to move forward toward the season, looking at, bold predictions for the Raiders in 2023. I'll turn that into a Bleach Report live show. I'll also have some non-bowl predictions, some realistic predictions, what I think the Raiders could do statistically for the 2023 season over at Sportsnet.
Nice. So you're saying you have a leisurely week, is what you're saying. The rest
Not
of your week.
quite.
Yeah, and look for my stuff. I will have obviously now being full time at Sportsnet. I will be doing a lot of stuff around the NFL and Major League Baseball, a bunch of different stuff. But as far as Raiders content is concerned, look right here as well. I did do a story that you'll see on Sportsnet today about the cuts yesterday. Also, you can check out Raider Ramble. I did my weekly piece, which we're doing on Trey Tucker. So Trey Tucker and kind of his advancement. Each staff member there, Mo, picked a player that they're going to follow throughout the year and kind of do updates on their development. So that's who I got, Trey, which is interesting because I've been critical of Trey Tucker even when they drafted him. So it's a good mix. And again, you got to be objective. So you look at what they do well and what they don't do well. So you can check that out at Raider Ramble. Shout out to Mario and the guys over there. All right, Mo. We will either hear from you later in the week on a blitz, or we'll talk to you on Tuesday.
Sounds good. You'll hear from me soon.
Midtown Mo.
Hey, look, it's Midtown Mo.
Yeah, we're gonna close out with the Midtown Mo. Now, see, if you get the shirt, I will post this file. People can download this file. And you got to make like an Instagram or a TikTok when you're in your Midtown Mo shirt and you're strutting down a street somewhere.
We'll give you some entrance music.
Yes, entrance music. Just walk in and go. I love it. All right. For our producer, Mike Robier, who wants you to, again, subscribe to the show, put on the auto download wherever you get your audio. And a shout out, by the way, to the YouTube audience. Thank you for the lively chat as always. And again, thanks to Mike for being such a great producer for us. And for Moe Moton, I am Scott Gulbransen. This has been Silver and Black Today. And we'll talk to you next time. Take care, Raider Nation.